Good morning and welcome to this week's Farm Factor. I'm your host, Jamie Bloom. Up first today, Kyle Bauer visits with Paul Cornett, a special investigator with the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, about the recovery of cattle stolen from an eastern Kansas ranch. Next is the Kansas Soybean update. Duane Toews and Jason Lee from Agco will discuss a hot topic in agronomics and how it could affect your per-plant yield. Then it's this week's Kansas Farm Bureau update, and Kyle and Duane will discuss poison ivy and honey on Plain Talk. Stay tuned.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com.
Earlier in my life, I rode bucking horses in rodeos, and my shoulders took such a beating, and that was probably the reason for having several previous surgeries on both shoulders. About a year ago, I decided that I didn't want to have another surgery, and so I contacted Kansas Regenerative Medicine, took their treatment process. It was relatively pain-free. Now, after 8 months, my shoulders have healed to the point where I think I'm probably 90 to 95% of normal. It takes a couple of months to start to see results and feel real progress. That continued to increase gradually until now at approximately 8 months. And I'm extremely pleased. I've got full range of motion. I can lift weights, I can throw, I can do a lot of things that I couldn't do without a lot of pain previously. So I'm tickled to death with the results, and I'd recommend this process to anyone.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture. To join today or for more information, go to kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Up first today, Kyle Bauer visits with Paul Cornett about the recovery of cattle stolen from an eastern Kansas ranch.
Hi, this is Kyle Bauer. I get the opportunity to visit with Paul Cornett. He's with the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture. He's a special investigator specializing in cattle theft, and we are at the Oklahoma City National Stockyards giving our reward down here because there was a lot of people that came together very quickly and were able to catch cattle thieves here.
Yes, sir. We got a call from the National Commission Company here at the Oklahoma City Stockyards, Oklahoma National Stockyards in Oklahoma City, and one of the employees happened to recognize a brand on some cattle that were stolen out of eastern Kansas, almost to Missouri. The cattle had actually been, the owner of the cattle had borrowed money, it's my understanding, from the National Commission Company. They have a program where they loan money to ranchers, and these cattle showed up, and they had the brand that this employee recognized as being the brand of the National Livestock Credit Corps, and he actually called the owner of the cattle in Kansas and said, "Is there some reason your cattle are in Oklahoma City, because they're not scheduled to be sold?" And the man said, "I've just left the sheriff's office. Those cattle are stolen." And so, those are the kind of breaks we like. Usually we're behind the 8 ball a little bit and trying to catch up. And I was actually on my way here. I work the northwest part of Oklahoma, live in northwest Oklahoma. I'm about an hour south of the Kansas line. And I was coming here I was investigating a theft I was working on. So I was close by. Our chief agent at that time, Jerry Flowers, he lives here and works in the central part. He's now retired. And Agent Eddie Davenport, he works South Central. We all met here at the same time. The cattle we told them to go ahead and sell the cattle, run them through the auction ring. Those cattle sold. The 2 defendants, Anthony Whitley and Jasmine Boone, came into the National Commission Company to pick up their check, and when they entered the office, we approached them and placed them under arrest for selling stolen cattle. And so it worked out beautifully. Usually it's several days before we get to catch up to them, but it's fun when you get to catch them when they come in for the money. That's pretty cut and dried when that happens.
When these folks, when you filed charges on them, though, it was a federal court.
Yes, sir. It was the cattle. By the time we got through interviewing them, at the end of the day, we'd pretty well connected them to the theft of over 100 head of cattle, Oklahoma, Kansas, Arkansas, Missouri. So they had taken stolen property across state lines on multiple occasions. So One of our agents, Ricky Rushing, he's also on the federal stolen property task force. He filed the charges, presented those to the federal prosecutor, and they've since, my understanding, made a plea agreement, and I don't remember what time they got, but they got quite a bit of time in prison for that.
You know, one thing that's you've mentioned as you put the whole thing together, there was a lot of people involved with this, but you get calls all the time on something that doesn't quite look right.
Yes, and that's what I tell people. If you just, whether you're the rancher, the farmer, the owner of the livestock auction, I mean, you know agriculture, you know cattle people, and there's so many of these thefts that we work that are involved with people stealing cattle and selling them at the livestock auction to buy illegal narcotics, methamphetamine specifically, many times. Most times those guys don't look like your average farmer and rancher. And I have a sale barn in Enid, Oklahoma, Northwestern Livestock, and the girl that works in there, she's actually from Kansas. And about 3 years ago, she called me on at least 2 or maybe 3 times that 1 year. It's been 3 times total, and I think they was all in the same year. I mean, she knows cattle people, and she called, she said, you need to come over here. These people brought cattle in. They're from eastern Kansas. Something's not right. You know, they passed multiple livestock auctions to bring them to Enid, and it's a good sale barn, but that's not a normal practice. I mean, you just know she knew something wasn't right. And all 3 of those groups of cattle were stolen out of Kansas, and they brought them into Oklahoma to sell. 3 different groups of suspects.
Thanks, Kyle. Be sure to stay tuned for this week's Kansas Soybean Update coming up next here on Farm Factor.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.
Imagine turning soybean oil, used cooking oils, and waste animal fats into fuel so amazing it drives U.S. jobs and our economy forward. Learn more about biodiesel at americasadvancedbiofuel.com.
Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture, represents grassroots agriculture. The state's largest and most powerful farm organization stands up for its members through leadership development, agriculture education, legal defense, environmental advocacy, farm safety, and risk management. Members also enjoy money-saving benefits. To join our organization today or to learn more, go to www.kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
This segment brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Welcome back to Farm Factor and the Kansas Soybean Update.
This is the Kansas Soybean Update. It's brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Kelsey Olson, who is Kansas Assistant Secretary of Agriculture, joins us. And Kelsey, later in the month, it will be the 4th annual Kansas Summit on Agricultural Growth that will be held.
Yes, we're really looking forward to the 4th annual Growth Summit on August 29th. We think this is a great opportunity that brings across all industry sectors of agriculture, 19 different areas that we address, and it's a unique opportunity to provide a holistic look at agriculture in the state of Kansas.
Because that has really been the purpose of this summit, is to get discussion going and looking at agriculture as a whole across the state.
That's correct. We think this is a unique opportunity where we are not just looking at one individual industry, but we're looking at 19 different areas that range from animal health to pork and poultry and pet food and equipment manufacturing. It's a very broad breadth of all the different aspects of Kansas agriculture.
And in the previous summits, a lot of really good discussion has come out of that, and I'm sure with discussion comes ideas.
We really try to address the challenges and opportunities that each sector is facing in today's economy, whether that be truck weights or it might be a traceability issue that comes out of the discussion, but it provides an opportunity for public and private individuals to join together to talk about today's challenges and opportunities. It's a great opportunity to talk about strategy, how we might overcome some of those challenges, or just join in our passion and our excitement to see a new project continue and to go forward and with growth. A really unique place where we provide input and feedback from all of our different agricultural leaders.
There are many challenges as far as agriculture is concerned, but having said that, there's probably in some fashion an equal amount of opportunities that are out there for growth in Kansas agriculture.
We see that there's lots of opportunity, whether that's expanding a current industry and maybe finding the right community for that industry to grow in, or it's a grassroots level opportunity that someone has the idea or concerned about and that we want to take that forward and present it at the state and national level. It's a real opportunity that everyone gets to come together and have their voices heard.
The summit will be Thursday, August 29th at the Manhattan Conference Center in Manhattan. That is Kelsey Olson, Kansas Assistant Secretary of Agriculture, who joins us on the Kansas Soybean Update. It's brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Learn more at kansassoybeans.org. For Kansas Soybeans, I'm Greg Akagi.
Hope you enjoyed this week's Kansas Soybean Update. Coming up next, Duane Toews talks agronomics with Jason Lee from Agco.
What if sustainability were synonymous with U.S. soy? If energy efficiency, water quality, and soil health help define U.S. soy's value, that future is here, the time is now. To meet end-user demands, the Soybean Checkoff is committing to sustainability that's achievable, worthwhile, and enduring. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Kim Mannering with Hardy Insurance. Today we will talk about employee safety and work comp coverage. On your farm, do you ask your friends to come help? Are they considered employees or neighbors helping neighbors? Did you know that you can be held responsible just as if it's a work comp accident? Give me a call. We can discuss. 316-945-6733.
This segment brought to you by Sure Crop, liquid crop nutrition delivered right to your farm.
We're back. Now Duane Toews and Jason Lee touch on a hot topic in agronomics.
Duane Toews joining him once again here on Ag AM in Kansas, and an opportunity to catch up with Jason Lee with Agco and talk about something that is becoming a bigger hot point button issue for growers. Singulation and populations. When we think on the agronomic side, a lot of work's been done to try and figure out the right combination for growers.
Yeah, it certainly has. You know, as we're going through the spring and we're planting our fields, obviously we want our population to be right on target or as close to target as we can get it. But there's also another side of the story, and that's what's our singulation, what's our plant spacing, and how uniform is that plant spacing. And so it's not just about going out and checking your population, but it's also knowing how accurately those seeds are spaced and how well they're singulated. So a thing that we want to avoid is having a lot of skips and doubles. And that's what we're out here trying to show today is what's the impact of having a lot of skips and doubles, and what's the impact of having inconsistent plant spacing, how that impacts the plant, and more importantly, how that impacts our per plant yield. And so one thing that we want to do is we want to try to correct those problems. We want to try to make sure that those plants are as uniformly spaced as possible so that they always have equal access to nutrients and water and light. And especially, you know, in a year like this where we've had some very stressful conditions, you know, the earlier in the year, the fields are real saturated, and then just lately as we're going through the pollination, we've had some pretty extreme heat. And so those are all extreme weather patterns that we want to try to ensure that our plants can handle those stresses as best as we can. And one of the ways that we can do that is make sure that those plants are equally spaced and that they have equal competition amongst themselves. So to try to handle those stress factors.
We think about the opportunities to do that and get that distribution evenly across the field. You referenced we're really harvesting sunlight and nutrients that have been provided, and being able to do that in addition to crowding out weeds early on as well.
Yep, that's right. That's another important component of it. We want to, earlier in the season, we want those plants to emerge quickly and try to canopy the row as quickly as possible. That way we can choke out those weeds. And by avoiding a lot of gaps in particular is another way we can try to stress out those weeds and keep those from emerging.
So Jason, when we think about seedless spacing and getting those populations out there appropriately, final thoughts for growers and viewers about how we can do that and why it's so important.
Yeah, so one thing I would encourage growers to do, particularly early in the year, is when you're going out and you're checking your final stand or your plant populations, to also go out with a tape measure and see what your individual plant spacing is, and more importantly, it's what's the standard deviation of your plant spacing. So how variable is that? And typically, what past university studies have found is that for every inch increase in standard deviation of your plant spacing is about roughly a 2 bushel yield loss. So that's why it's really critical that we get that uniform plant spacing. In fact, I just did a yield check in this field here, and where we had a lot of skips and doubles, I was getting a yield check of about 160 bushels per acre, but where we had that uniform plant spacing was about 174. And all things considered for this year, when I'm out there in the field doing yield checks, it's important to make sure that you're only counting the harvestable kernels. As I was out in this field, there was a lot of individual kernels that didn't get pollinated, and then also with the intense heat that we had during the blister stage, there's been a lot of kernel abortion too. So when you're out doing your yield checks, make sure that you're accounting for the tip back and the number of kernels that didn't get pollinated or that have aborted. Make sure we don't count those and that we're just counting the harvestable kernels to try to get the most accurate yield check.
All right, thanks to Jason Lee with Agco joining us on Ag AM in Kansas. Jamie, we'll send it back to you.
Thanks, Duane. Come back after the break for this week's Kansas Farm Bureau update.
Ag Promo Source is a unique group of marketing specialists with one mission: help your ag business grow. Each affiliate has their own area of expertise, and they work together to bring you advice, products, and services. To get started, visit agpromosource.com. Ag Promo Source. Together we grow.
Sure Crop Fertilizers was started by my father, Don Sherman, and my mother, Shirley Sherman. Family business that started in the 80s. We predominantly focus on plant nutrients and what we can do to give growers better responses with the fertilizer dollars that they do, and what we can do to make those things work better for the grower. We're based out of Seneca, Kansas. We work with growers in their soil analysis to figure out what they need, and then we can put those in a blend that gives them the best results, and so that we can deliver that direct to their farm so that they have those nutrients where they need them, when they need them, and so that they can apply them in a manner that's very efficient to them and works well on their planting systems and what they're doing. Sure Crop Fertilizers has been around for a long time. We always say we're big enough to take care of everything you need, but we're small enough to do it quickly. You can get a hold of us at 1-800-635-4743. Our website is surecropfertilizers.com, and you can always email me at Corey@surecropfertilizers.com, and with any questions you have, we'll be glad to answer and work with you.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture. To join today or for more information, go to kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back to Farm Factor and the Kansas Farm Bureau update.
I'm Derek Schmidt, the Kansas Attorney General. I'm excited to have been on days 2 and 3 of the Kansas Farm Bureau tour. We were in Great Bend and Dodge and now Scott City. And it's always refreshing to see the cutting edge of technology applied to production agriculture in Kansas, from high-tech water systems to just a good dinner last night, and then of course all that they're doing with sorghum and niche marketing to meet new consumer demands out here in Scott City. So Kansas Farm Bureau is critical to helping Kansas farmers feed the world and to make sure we can do it in a way that works for the 21st century while keeping our traditions from the past, and it's great to be part of it. As a kid, you always saw the signs on the fences and knew about things that Farm Bureau was doing to support members, and then once I got working in public policy, I've been able to work with Farm Bureau really since the start of my career. Back when I was a Senate staffer, much younger days, and then as chairman of the Senate Ag Committee, the State Senate Agriculture Committee in the legislature, and now as Attorney General. Farm Bureau says truthfully that it's the voice of Kansas agriculture, and we all rely on Farm Bureau to make sure that ag's voice is heard.
Stay with us. We'll be back after the break with Plain Talk.
Kim Mannering with Hardy Insurance. Today we will talk about umbrella coverage. Did you know that if your cattle get out, you could be held liable for that? Call me. Let's have a discussion. 316-945-6733.
Clyde Sutton, Nest City, Kansas. Lived on this place all my life. About a year and a half ago, got to where I couldn't saddle a horse. The pain was terrible. Read about stem cell. First it wasn't for me, then they started doing neck and back. Went and had it done. As you can see, I saddled a horse. I'm still building fence. Love to shoot a shotgun rifle, and I'm able to participate, not like I used to, but nevertheless I can do the things I used to do, and life is good.
This segment brought to you by Santa Fe Trail Meats in Overbrook. Let us help feed your family.
Welcome back. Now let's see what Kyle and Duane are up to on Plain Talk.
Hi, this is Kyle Bauer with Plain Talk, with the man that understands the term, leaves of three, let it be, Duane Toews.
Yeah,
Boy,
fortunately,
I use that all the time.
I am so lucky. It's easy to teach young kids.
Yeah.
In fact, we have a bit of it around the grounds where we live. A couple of youngsters that come over occasionally, and the one is probably 4, and I hear her spouting that one all the time. Yeah. Leaves a 3, let it be. I'm very fortunate that I believe there is a genetic component that I inherited from my father that poison ivy doesn't bother me.
You don't even get it at all?
No.
I mean, I get it, but it's so minor that it's, and to be honest, I just spray it with a little athlete's foot spray, and it's gone in 2 days.
Right.
That's just not very much at all.
No, I believe it came from Dad, because I have a brother that they were a senior party, and they were at the river, and they made a mudslide into the river. Mm-hmm. Several kids in his class, a couple of them ended up in the hospital
because of poison ivy.
Yeah, and my brother had absolutely none.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody had some. Some had it really, really bad.
Right.
And my brother had none whatsoever. And I know that I've been in and around. I've cut some down on the property. I haven't been overly cautious and haven't had any trouble at all. So
this one place that we camp once in a while had some around here and there. And I just went last fall before the leaves fell off.
Right.
And sprayed it with 2,4-D. I mean, it's just super easy to kill.
Right.
And I actually went back here not long ago. Sure enough, pretty much got it all.
Really?
Yeah, and it's
my
just,
problem
you
is
have to plan ahead a little bit.
Yeah, my problem is ours is intertwined in some trees that I don't want to kill.
Well, but
so,
are they the tree? I mean, they aren't
the roots
over
are
the top of the 2,4-D won't kill the
through the roots. It
no.
won't. See, wait
a minute. I need to make a disclaimer. This is not a recommendation for
of a
use
horticulturist.
Of any herb.
I cut the stem, and then I treated the end of the stem and wrapped it with a bag on some, and it did a pretty good job.
Well, that's
but
quite impressive.
I was a nickel nervous, I got to be honest, as to whether or not it would go down into the root system and then affect the tree root system.
Well, but you're using something different than what I just had.
Yeah, mine was a little.
Yeah,
mine was weed and brush killer.
Yeah, exactly. Completely different deal.
Yeah.
Which actually, last night I went around my house and there was some herbaceous growth that I did not want, and went around with a little paintbrush and the nasty stuff, like the good working stuff.
Yeah,
like
the stuff that really kills stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
And boy, I was painting it like I was painting the Mona Lisa, because I did not. And I actually had a pair of clippers in my pocket too, that anytime, if there was any chance of any dot getting on anything else.
Right.
I clipped that part off. And
Yeah, sacrifice the small to save the whole.
Yeah, exactly.
Your fact or fiction question of the day, Kyle Bauer. Honey, the only food product thought to be unable to spoil.
The only food product.
Food product.
I've heard that honey won't spoil. I've heard that the Egyptian tombs had it in there for thousands of years. The only food that won't spoil. I don't know. I think almost lots of sugary things. Rock candy, I think you could take in the bunker with you, and it would be just fine when you come out in 150 years. Take it into space with you. I'm going to go with fiction.
It says it's true. Now, I got to be honest. I don't know whether they really thought about rock candy or not. I don't think most people think that's a food.
How about just granular sugar in general? Have you ever seen it go bad? I mean, it can get hard, but it's not going to go bad.
I suspect that if it was left in the open over a period of years, eventually something would grow on it.
Grow on. I was going to say, you're saying that honey could be left in the open? It's got to be left in a jar.
Yeah, it's got to be jarred.
Or it just wouldn't like as spoiled, but it would just be as hard as rock candy. Yeah. Okay.
Back to sugar isn't a food.
Sugar is not a food?
Sugar is not a food.
Really? Who told you that?
It's an additive. Of course, honey is an additive too, I suppose.
Have you ever eaten cereal? The only thing that has any calories in that is the sugar itself.
Thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Jamie Bloom, and I hope you enjoyed today's show. See you next week on Farm Factor.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com.
Kansas Corn reminds you that E15 fuel is the right choice for every kind of driver. For the car enthusiast, E15 has higher octane. For the thrifty driver, E15 is priced lower than regular unleaded. For the nature lover, E15 provides cleaner air. For the shopper who buys local, E15 has more ethanol from our Kansas corn farms. Choose E15 for a higher octane, lower price, cleaner American fuel. Message from the Kansas Corn Commission. Learn more at kscorn.com.
Welcome to the Western Kansas Wildlife Travel Center, right here in my hometown of Oakley, Kansas. We're the front door of Western Kansas, located on 3 main highways, I-70, US 83, and US 40. And all those roads lead to history, beautiful scenery, and adventure, no matter which direction you go. We now have an IHOP. That brand that you've trusted up and down the road in all your travels is staffed with local folks, real people, just like you and me, and we're waiting on you to join us. So for fun, adventure, fuel up, fuel your body, and let's have some fun.